By using our gypsum-based product, you can achieve the look of a multicolored plaster wall in less time than it takes to do standard drywall finish and paint. In this example, I'm using a light-colored base coat with a darker color over the top, and I'm doing the reverse on the right side. For this application, you'll need to modify a 12-inch spackle blade. To modify a 12-inch spackle blade, take a pair of pliers and bend the tips slightly upwards to about a 1/16 of an inch. This reduces the likelihood of creating a wake in the spackle. Be sure when you use this blade that the tips are facing away from the wall. We begin by mixing the gypsum in small batches, maybe a quarter of a spackle bucket in height. You want to be sure that you work in small batches. This way the material won't dry out while you're using it. You apply this from the spackle bucket onto the wall in larger clumps using a 6-inch spackle knife. From there, you'll spread the material out using the 12-inch spackle knife. The goal is to get the layers about as thick as a credit card. In my example here, I'm using my 12-inch spackle blade to try and spread the material out evenly. And again, I'm trying to get that layer about the thickness of a credit card. When I first start spreading the material with the spackle blade, I use the blade more perpendicular to the wall, allowing me to snow plow and spread the material evenly out throughout the wall finish. Once I feel that the material's been spread out over the wall in the right thickness, I lower my spackle blade to begin to smooth out some of the wakes. At this point, you want to make sure that you no longer trowel straight up and down or horizontal. You always want to go in a curve to keep the pattern looking more natural. Again, you just want to make sure that your spackle blade tips are curled away from the wall. This will help reduce wakes and it'll help smooth out any of the higher raised edges. If your material does dry out, you can spray it with a water bottle and you can use your 12-inch blade to work the water into the material. In the example I've done here, I've split each one of these halves in half again. The right side I'm using a sponge to tamp the material, and the left side I'm not. By using a sponge to tamp the gypsum between 15 minutes and a half an hour, it'll give it a texture that's going to show through on your second layer. When tamping with a sponge, be sure to squeeze the sponge while you tamp, eliminating corner marks. I've done the example of the tamping of the sponge on the right side of each one of these samples. You need to be sure that your first coat is completely dry before applying the second, otherwise your blade will remove the first coat. Once the layer is dry, if you find that there's some areas that have some bumps or some ridges, you can either sand or scrape. You have the option of doing a sealer coat on the wall. In this case, I use a high gloss water-based sealer in a spray bottle and I tamp the spray with a rag to keep the drips from running down the wall. If you do have some runs, don't worry. When it dries out, it'll be transparent. Multiple coats of the sealer built up will give you a shine to a sheen, and it'll also give you a little bit of a protective finish.